Greetings, beloved children. This is your group Souls Arena. We are delighted to be with you, among you, and as you. Don't forget to record, indeed. How interesting is it that you said those words, April, for we were just about to begin with some thoughts along these very lines about what it means to be recorders of the times that you are in, that we are in, what it means to record these times, to put them down into writing, to hold them in your bodies, to be the recorders of this amazing, amazing time that we are in. We are blessed to have a beautiful lineup of speakers who will be talking about what it means to be the recorders of this particular time that we are in. And one by one, we will be bringing them in. Before we do so, we would like to introduce all of us to this thought that the master teachers are bringing in for us. And this is the reminder for all of us that for each and every one of us, this is the longest time in any of our lifetimes that we have stayed in the room. In other words, we've had troubled times before, not only in this life, but in our other lifetimes. We have gone through troubled times. We have been in all kinds of wars and insurrections and plagues, earthquakes and floods, and all kinds of upheaval. We've been through it all, but the difference is, according to our master teachers, that in all these other lifetimes, when we went through an earthquake, a flood, a famine, a plague, a war, a pestilence, an upheaval, we did not stay through until the very end. Many times we left early in our lifetimes. Not so in this one. In this one, there is a determination, according to our teachers, among many of us, that this time we don't leave the room until the room is cleaner and lighter and brighter. That is part of what makes this time that we are in so excruciating and so beautiful at the same time. Excruciating because, beloveds, our teachers believe that there is a place in our being where we know, where we are well aware that we will not leave until the room is cleaner and lighter and brighter. That in this lifetime, we have agreed to a long-term contract. And that's the excruciating part, but it is also the delightful part. Because there is the assurance of, if we will stay in the room as we promised, if we will stay, if we will work, if we will continue to bring love where love appears not to be and light where darkness seems to be, if we continue to do this work that we are called to do, if we stay in the room in whatever way we can, stay in the room by making yourselves laugh, stay in the room by engaging with one another on deeper and deeper levels, stay in the room by committing to our own physical and mental well-being. Stay in the room. In whatever way we choose to stay in the room, there is a sense that we will be satisfied. We will be glad that we did. I leave these thoughts with you, or the thoughts of the master teachers, and I am about to now withdraw so that our first speaker may come forward. This speaker is known to us as Lady Nada, but she would like to make an explanation about that. And so without further ado, we will withdraw and bring forward Master Teacher Lady Nada. Ah, yes, good evening. Good evening. It's so good to see you. Yes, I had told your beautiful Zarina that while you know me as Lady Nada, it is an earlier incarnation of my being that I would love to introduce you to me, to me and to all of you. And while you may know me as a being that has earned her place, a being of light and grace, and I say with complete honesty, yes, that is true. I have worked hard to achieve that. But this was not always true. I'd like to introduce you to a younger version of myself, a version of myself who always had an inkling that she would grow up one day to become Lady Nada. And along the way, how valuable her lessons were to herself. And so I'm going to step aside and bring forward my earlier incarnation, the little one that we call Eldon. Good evening, everybody. I am the earlier incarnation of Lady Nada. I am not who she is now. I am that younger version. I speak to you from her past, from a place in her being in which she was not yet aware of the strengthening of her being, or the merit of her being, or the value of her being. As Eldon, I was often left by myself, alone, in a small room in which all that were present were a pair of rags and some scissors. And my job was to pick through those rags, pick through them, and cut them into tiny pieces and see what could be salvaged. This was my job in a faraway place, in a place that you call China, but it had a very different name then. And the pronunciation of my name was quite different there. As my job was simple, it was also terribly depressing. I was left there by myself to pick through a pile of filthy, dirty rags. And sometimes this job would make me quite angry. And sometimes I would take my scissors and stab that pile of rags in anger and curse the powers that I thought had led me there. Why? Why do I have to have this job of picking through rags, this demeaning, horrible job? Why am I stuck here all by myself? Why does nobody care? Why does no one listen? One day, I took my scissors and I stabbed them so deeply into that pile of rags that I hit something underneath. a rock underneath that pile of rags. And that rock hit those scissors and sent a shock up into my physical body. And I knew that I had broken my wrist. A sharp and shooting pain went through my body. And once again, I was filled with self-pity. Why did this happen to me? No one will come and help me. Why? Why have the gods led me here? Why is this so? And so as I lay there in great pain and no one to hear my cries, it suddenly occurred to me that my healing was in the room with me. I noticed the pile of rags and I realized that there was enough material there to bind my wrist, to hold it in such a way so that it was not as painful. I noticed that as I did this binding, a marvelous feeling came into me. I was healing myself, although I didn't know it at the time. I was taking care of myself. I was privileging myself with self-love for the very first time. And I began to realize that I had everything I needed within me in which to make a better life for myself. The next time that somebody came, days later, and discovered me with my wrist wrapped up, they remarked, "What a clever girl, and what a beautiful binding you have made. Would you like another kind of employment? We have need of people who know how to wrap the wounds of soldiers who have fallen in battle." Well, before I knew it, I had another job, and I took those rags with me and went off to the battlefield and worked in what you might call nowadays a kind of military hospital. And as I bound the wounds of soldiers who had worse, worse kinds of woundings than I had ever experienced, I felt well up in me a kind of compassion. And I began to identify myself with that compassion. And that was my journey to becoming Lady Nada, a, a tall, bright light that now visits you in her elder state and brings light to those who are feeling loveless and worthless and helps bind the wounds of a wounded world. I know that my elder self, my Lady Nada, would have me say these words, and so I will say them to you. That where you are now, precious friends, is exactly, we believe, where I was when I was in the room by myself with only a pile of rags. And where you are now is the moment in which your own confusion, your own anger wounds you to the point where you must heal yourself. And where you are now is where I was when it is recognized by the divine self that you are, that it is time to take this skill, this modality of healing out into the battlefields of your planet, the places where people are hurting, and use everything that you have learned so far about your self-care and apply it to the world. And thus you all become and are Lady Nada. And I will now let my present self, the self that I am today, carry on. And this is Lady Nada as you know her now. And I am grateful for my younger self to have told that story. Indeed, as I remember those times, I remember being lost and confused and afraid and full of anger and bitterness. And now all of that has faded. I am grateful that all of you are in that place where you are taking your ability to care for your own wounds and now face a wounded world and take care of it. You are doing it with what you have at hand, with what has been given you. Your present circumstances, the energies of the world, may feel to you like a pile of rags, like what is in there that can be useful. And I say to you, all of it can be used. All of it is the fabric from which you create that healing modality, not only for yourselves, but for this world and for this universe. And thank you for listening to me, dear ones. It is such a delight for me to partake of your energy and to feel the mantle of your spirit and to acknowledge with you how beautifully you are growing. And now I will withdraw, and your group soul, Zarina, is coming forward. And this is Zarina, your group consciousness. We have another soul who would like very much to speak to you on the thoughts that we were bringing you, that this is the first time that you all have incarnated and decided to stay in the room until the room is clean. We have several speakers who would like to speak to you on that. We are going to withdraw so that Eric Butterworth can step forward. Yes, good evening. My name is Eric Butterworth. Some of you are familiar with me. I was a teacher with Unity Worldwide Ministries. I wrote many books. Perhaps the most famous one is Discover the Power Within You. And I had a really good time, a wonderful time, ministering to my flock, which grew substantially the more I understood how to unleash my own divine power. But I wanted to speak to you tonight, not about my development, but about yours, because it is really key for you to understand that what you are doing by deciding to stay in the room is what we on in fourth dimension would call a breakthrough. It is a breakthrough because the habit of humanity has been to say, this is too much, I'm out of here. You know, can't stand the heat, get out of the kitchen, that sort of thing. Well, a lot of times human beings have said, well, let me get out of this kitchen. It is too hot. And that's been our habit. And of course, you could say, oh, well, Eric, that's just because we didn't live as long in those days. And I would say to you, nope, it's all about consciousness. It really is. Back in our history, we simply had not developed the consciousness to endure a hot kitchen, to stay in it until the kitchen cooled down. What we had developed was the ability to stay in for a very brief time and then get on out of there and come back into fourth dimension and rest. But my friends, that's not what you're doing. You have decided to stay. This is a breakthrough. This is a new thing for humanity. This is brand new. No one else has done this. You're the first generation to do this. And that may help you understand why it feels so wobbly. Other than the circumstances which surround you, I think there is that inner determination that you recognize because you have agreed to stay through it. Takes a lot of courage. I didn't do it. I mean, there's a lot of folks that I came up with that chose not to do what you're doing. So do you understand when I'm saying that this is a big deal? This is a breakthrough. This is a new one for humanity. And of course, it isn't just you here in this Zoom room. There are many, many, many human beings all over the planet who have agreed not to quit when it gets hard, but have agreed to stay in and be that balancing energy that the earth, that the world is calling for. I'm just so proud of you all. I really am. Many of you have been what I would call my students. You've read my books, you've digested my thoughts, and that just makes me really happy. But what makes me happier, frankly, is that you're going beyond. You're going beyond what I could have imagined. You truly are. And I'm going to say something that might strike you as heretical, but here it comes. You're going beyond where that master teacher of yours, Jesus, went. He got out when it got rough. Now, that may sound cold, that may sound unkind, and I don't mean it as such, but I mean it to bring into your consciousness the veracity of what you are doing. It's different from what your master teacher, Jesus, did. It got rough, he got out. Now, many of you would say that the way he got out was beautiful and inspiring, and yes, it was. But that is not your journey. That is not your journey. Your journey is different. You are being given shoes, earth shoes, mind you, that last a long time. Nobody leaves until this room is cleaned up. That's what you have said to yourselves. I'm just so proud. I'm just so proud. I hope you know that what you're doing is absolutely what is called for. And it changes everything. Remember, you're the first generation that has decided to stay and not leave when the earth wobbles. You're going to stay. Boy, oh boy, what a remarkable generation you are. Don't you forget it. Don't you forget it. All right. I have enjoyed my time with you. I'm giving you all a big hug. You remember what you are. Blessings. And this is Serena. And we are so grateful for both Lady Nada and Eric Butterworth. And now we do know that the Master Teacher Yeshua is here and he would like to say some things. And so we are going to withdraw and allow our Master Teacher Yeshua to speak. Well, that was quite an introduction, wasn't it? Oh, my old friend, Eric. What a wonderful man he is. He speaks the truth to you. I know that it is common to think of what I did as being the most remarkable thing that any human being could ever do. But in all humility, I say to you, it is not. And I say that to you because we have all evolved, have we not? We have come to this point, and the classroom is different. And in this classroom, nobody leaves. And this is very, very different. In this classroom, there is a determination that was not felt in my generation. You know, we felt as though we were like leaves. We came and we went. And we felt as though that was our privilege. You know, that was part of our cosmology. Let the winds of spirit blow us where spirit wanted to. You are different. You have grown. You have evolved. And I have evolved along with you. And I have come to see that what matters is staying. What matters is holding onto your principles and staying. And I am staying with you. And I am walking with you. And I know that it is frightening. I know it is confusing. I know the voices of despair are hard to drown out from time to time. But I also know something about all of you. I know that you agreed to hold your balance in an unsteady time. I know that you agreed not to be crucified, but instead to move not only yourself, but everyone around you right into resurrection, right into it. This does not mean that you will bypass pain. What it means is that you will endure, and you will endure and endure and endure until every single corner of your physical being is lifted and is spiritual. And this is the real meaning of staying in the room. This is what is breakthrough for your generation, for this particular era of humanity. You will stay in your physical bodies, and you will stay as a species on this planet, and you will stay in this country. You will stay until the very cells of your bodies have morphed so that they themselves are etheric. This is what real endurance means. It means to stay until the transformation is complete, and to do it without physically dying. That is what you are up to. And this is, of course, way beyond politics, is it not? This has nothing to do with elections or border crossings or tariffs or anything else of that nature. This has nothing to do with Caesar, my dear friends. This has everything to do with your divinity and your commitment to stay. I am so humbled and so impressed and so proud of you, all of you, for being determined and for staying. I have another guest that is standing right beside me. And this guest would like to have a word with you. I think I need to introduce this guest. If you are students of scripture, you may remember that there was a fig tree that I cursed. Cursed fig tree, I said. And that fig tree kind of withered and died. Well, I'd like to bring that fig tree in because that fig tree has something to say about where things stand now and what that curse was all about and how that fig tree has moved into blossom. And so, without even asking your dear Zarina, if I may, I am going to introduce my dear friend, the once barren fig tree. Well, thank you, Master Teacher Yeshua. I must say this is very interesting. All those many, many years ago, I remember clearly, I was struggling to find my bearing in the rock. I was struggling to find my worth. I was struggling to find anything decent about myself. And I really had given up any hope when along came Master Teacher Yeshua. And he and I had a very long talk. And this is not written in your scriptures, but what actually happened is he leaned himself upon me and he said, "Tell me, good fellow, what ails you? Why aren't you bearing any figs? What's wrong?" And I said to him quite plainly, "I have a master who tends me in this garden. And every time he walks by, he kicks me and he says, 'Curse you. Why aren't you bearing me any figs?' And he kicks at me and kicks at me. And I have taken it on as a sort of self-fulfilling prophecy, so he won't kick me anymore. I'm trying to make myself disappear, you see, so that I won't have to suffer that kind of shame." All of this I shared with the master teacher. And the master teacher wrapped his arms around me and smiled and said, "Shall I rescue you from this kind of shame? Shall I help you find your true self?" And I said, "Sure." And then the master teacher, with a huge grin on his face and all the love in his heart, threw his head back and started laughing and laughing and laughing. And then he said, "Curse you, fig tree." And he started laughing. "I curse you." And I realized that what he was doing was making a joke of the master who had been actually cursing me. And in that joke, I found my power, my strength. I started laughing with him. He and I kept laughing and laughing until I found my inner strength. And lo and behold, what happened? A beautiful, tiny little bud of a fig appeared. And now I am a renewed and resurrected fig tree. I am one of the examples of endurance that all of these teachers have been talking about. The world energies had cursed me and told me I was worthless. I felt barren, unprotected. I wasn't bearing any fruit. And then a master teacher came along and made a big joke of it and allowed me to see just how hilarious that all was. And in my belly laugh, I found that I was ready to endure, ready to stay. And stay I have, and I have endured, and I am bearing fruit, and so are all of you. And this is one of the reasons why you are able to endure, dear ones. You are able to laugh. You are able to make jokes. You are able to laugh at the so-called enemy so hard until there is no so-called enemy anymore. Would you like a fig? They're on sale. That's a joke. Bless you. And this is your group Souls Arena. And we are bringing back Lady Nada one last time. Dear ones, as we finish up this evening's meditation, I would like you to come with me into that earlier chapter of my incarnation. Please follow me into a room. You can see the walls are made out of some kind of clay or stucco. Into a room that has no light. There is a pile of rags there, and you are there as well. And we are there. Dear ones, I invite you to pick up one of these filthy rags and hold it with me up to the light so that you can see through the fabric of time what it is that is still beautiful in this rag. Perhaps you'll see a glint of gold or silver. Perhaps you'll see a bit of amethyst or dark green or a light pink or turquoise. Perhaps you will notice that it has a beautiful nubby texture, this remnant that has remained, that has endured, that is still here, this rag. And as you pick up your rag and hold it up to the light, know that far and wide, human beings all over your planet are picking up their rags and holding them up to the light and joining them together with yours to make a beautiful patchwork quilt, a quilt of endurance, a quilt that says, I'm here and I'm going to stay here until the job is done. A quilt that comforts all of humanity and includes every living thing. This is the work that you are doing now. And as you feel this lovely quilt, as you feel this mantle of endurance wrapped around you, you can know that there is deep, deep peace within you. And along with peace, there is resolve. There is determination. We will not leave. We will stay with you until this entire room is filled with light. And you will notice that it is beginning to do that right now. We remind you of all the times that you have said to yourself, I will endure. I will stay. I will not let my physical body collapse and die. Not now. I will stay here. We remind you that all of those times you have said these words to yourself have been the times when you have helped pull all of humanity forward. Bless you, dear ones. It is your endurance that matters. And along the way, find things to make you laugh, find things to comfort you, find things that you can wrap around you like a healing modality, and find things that you can heal one another with. This is the task at hand. And we love you. Bless you. This is your group Souls Arena. We would like to thank all of our participants, all of the beautiful energies that have visited us on this beautiful Thursday evening. We remind you all of your loving commitment to inhabit your physical body and to endure, to stay, to be in the room, to bring your full self into every single cell in your body. And as you do so, remember that you have feet, that you have hands, that you have eyebrows and eyelashes. Remember that every hair on your head is counted and is precious, and that your endurance matters. Namaste.